Hi everybody. All right. A live stream. I haven't done these in a while, so I thought let's do one here. Hi. Let's see if we're live. If you can see this, just post a quick hello world in the chat. If we're live, if you can see me. If I'm here, because I haven't done this, as I haven't done this in a while. And I actually don't know if it works. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Hi. Hello. YouTube works. All right. LinkedIn as well. Hi. Guy. Hello. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I would have had a coaching session right now, but my student actually canceled, so I already had everything set up and I was in the mood of actually doing some coaching, and I thought let's just do a live session, talk a bit about the coaching. You can hear me very good? Okay, all right. Can you hear well and good? Very good. Yeah, Yash, I'm fine, thanks. I hope you all are also good. Yeah. It's already Thursday, right? I don't know where the week is going. It's so much stuff to do. And I have the feeling that whenever the week starts, it immediately is Friday again. So, yeah, I thought let's tell you a bit about the coaching, why I like it, what I see, what a bit about what the best coaching students do, and let me hear what do I have on my list. How I moved from one-to-one or to one-to-one coaching from group coaching sessions, which I actually like, and weekly meetings. Yeah, generally. So how this goes with my data engineering coaching is for over a year I did group sessions where we actually were meeting up every Monday and every Thursday, and people could come and we sit together and I basically help everybody with their problems, and it was quite good. And what I liked was that people who were in the group sessions also saw the projects from each other and could listen in. But the more coaching students I actually got, it got more to the point where there are, let's say, 5 people in the group session, and usually it takes me half an hour to go through all the topics with one person. And then it was always like one person had to wait for a very long time, right? And that's not good. So I actually moved to one-on-one coaching sessions where I did 30 minutes, and that's, for me, it's a lot more fun for me, because I'm not seeing people in the group session that already wait for an hour to get their turn. I know, like, I have half an hour, and that's absolutely enough for the coaching. Sometimes if I have nobody behind, then we're taking a bit longer, and but usually half an hour is absolutely fine. So, hi Andy. So if you're looking for something like that, and it doesn't need to be data engineering coaching or some other coachings or some trainings, I think around half an hour is actually very productive, and is going to give you already a lot of knowledge and a lot of training in this half an hour. You don't need to necessarily have an hour, of course. If it's some kind of a training and exercise where you need to be fit, then most likely half an hour is not enough, right? But yeah, I think half an hour, it's really cool. I like it. I haven't heard anything bad yet from all my students. It's fun. People can book their sessions, and then I'm basically meeting them, and we're talking about what was up last week, what's the plan for this week, and so on. Oh, Ravid. Hi, Ravid. Simeon. Hello. What was your class topic today? As this would have been my first coaching for today. And usually we don't have like these fixed topics that we go into. It's not like a full curriculum. It's always custom to the person who is doing the coaching with me, that I teach, and most likely I'm guessing. Let me think about what was on her board. I think we would have been talking a bit more about platform design and pipeline design. I think that was one of our topics. But unfortunately, my student was ill for the past 2 days, and yeah. My Scrum meetings are 30 minutes for a small team. It's perfect. Yeah, absolutely. I think longer is very often not necessary, and also for Scrum, where you're doing this regularly and where you're going over topics, and it's more of to the point and not start babbling about everything. 30 minutes should be good, and I think that 30 minutes is generally a very healthy meeting time. 15 minutes. I also sometimes I do 15-minute meetings with people, but it's not in the coaching, but outside of the coaching. But 15 is already very, very. You have to be very strict and very to the point. 30 minutes, you have a lot of time to actually spend and talk about topics. So 30 minutes is really, really good, I think. So for me, it was a nice move to go away from group sessions, because it took the pressure off for me to actually see people who are waiting in line for me to get to them, because it's always needs to go quick, and it was also with taking breaks. I'm terrible at taking breaks, so sometimes I did 2 hours of coaching or more in one piece without taking break, and that's a lot nicer now. I also added that I have at least 10 minutes after each session until the next person comes in, so that's really nice. That you stay refreshed and that you keep your mind actually alive. I guess a bit of like what Andy said, 30 minutes for a meeting. Spend some time after that, like that you can do work, or that you get yourself a coffee or something. It's very, very helpful for your fitness. Do not jump from one meeting to the next, to the next, to the next. I did that in my old job very often. High time was, I think, around 2 years ago, where I did a lot of meetings, and it's not fun. It's not good for you. Let me go into a few questions here, a few topics. How rewarding is data engineering career when looking for long career perspective? It's a very, very rewarding topic. And also it usually doesn't get boring. And the cool thing is that there are out there so many solutions, how people build their pipelines, how build their platforms, different tools, different platforms. It's so versatile, and the use cases are always very different. So I don't know if you have seen my my reaction videos or review videos that I've done. The 3 of them. I'm going to do a lot more of these types on YouTube. But no platform is like the other, and that's why engineering is so interesting, because it's never like one platform is not like the other platform. The tools are different, the jobs are different, what you're going to do. So I think it's very, very cool. And also you have this transition that there's coming new tools online, or getting in the productivity stage where you say, okay, now you can use them. And you always have this flow, right? You have sometime we had Hadoop, and Hadoop went down. Then we had Spark. Spark is like flowing right now. Then we have the cloud that is coming up. So it's absolutely cool how the whole sphere of data engineering always shifts, and you have to stay. It's also a downside, right? It's also a downside that it shifts because you have to keep learning. You cannot rest on the stuff you learn or you know. It's it's very rewarding and it's fun, I think. Wow, here's a long comment from Derek. I notice a lot of people we are hiring have Azure certifications, but in practice are difficult in applying the theoretical knowledge in practice. Are there out-of-the-box solutions to test people's practical skills when it comes to AWS Azure during the hiring process? Hard. That's hard. Generally, to test this, because you would need to do some kind of a hands-on, and hands-ons are, I don't like it in an interview phase or something. That's not the right thing to do there. So what I always recommend, and that's I'm trying to get my students to actually document their work, document their progress. When they do a course out of the academy, for instance, if you're part of the academy, I have practical projects there. And the goal would be to document these practical projects. So that's, I think that Derek, for you, that's it's a bit of would be a bit of help, because a lot of one problem that you have a lot when talking or when interviewing people is it's hard to narrow down on what do they understand and what they don't understand. So when you have a project from the student where the student actually puts it on the CV or can tell you about it, okay, I did this, then in that project, then you can prepare yourself for this. You can ask concrete questions on specific topics where you can drill down if the person actually did this, if the person understands this. So that's what I recommend, because just in an interview process, showing the practice is hard, and having something that you can show what you've done before, this will help a lot, or helps a lot. It's good for the interview, it's good for the candidate. That's something how I would go at it, and it's not super hard. But just with, as you pointed in your question, just have a certification, and they're terrible at the practice. Yeah, because certifications are just this, right? You're learning, and a lot of people can learn very good. I know this back from school. A lot of people were very good learners, and they had great grades, but they were terrible at applying the stuff. And so, yeah, just going off a certification. Also, how was that? I think there are also trainings for the certification tests, right? So people actually don't do the whole certification. They're just training for specific tests with books or with some courses or something, which is, right? Why would you do that? I don't understand that. Yeah. So Derek, that's a bit of a problem. Scala, looking forward to start learning Scala since a lot of jobs in my region required. What do you think about Scala in data engineering? Scala in data engineering is, yes, for Spark, for older Spark jobs, but you can do so much with Python right now. I'm not sure if I would still focus that much on Scala. I never really liked Scala. Never really liked it. And but it's cool if go for it. Then get a Spark specialist and work with Spark jobs, do it. But keep Python in mind on that. I think there's a big shift coming away from Scala in this. It's already started, but it's getting a lot more. The problem is that it's hard to practice Azure. You need data, a problem to solve, access to a platform, which could you be cost prohibitive. Perhaps theory isn't there yet, but with some exposure and practice, they begin understanding. Yeah. So I think you have a few good points, but not all is true. So when I look at with my coaching students how we work with on topics, the goal is always that we build a platform where we actually incorporate stream and batch processing and so on, and basically do hands-on training on if it's an AWS or Azure or whatever. You can find data sets out there everywhere. Literally, you go to Kaggle or the UCI machine learning repository, you are going to find a few data sets that make sense to use. Then the only problem, and that's where people always struggle, and that's where when I talk with my coaching students a lot, is actually then from this creating some goals that make sense to do in your project. Right? Because that's just having a data set isn't the problem. It's the doing, the finding the goals, and then building everything around this. So there is a solution for that, and that's that. Cost prohibitive. The cost isn't really the problem. Azure doesn't cost a lot. You have to think of, and it's funny because last week in our weekly meeting we actually talked about this. The cost in these cloud platforms. Where is the cost? Write in the comments before we go. Everybody who's here, what does cost the most within cloud platforms? Storage, processing, APIs, message queues, whatever. What is the cost factor, the cost driver in these cloud platforms? Just write, just like a boom, boom, boom. What do you think is the cost driver in this? I see compute. Come on, somebody else. Or is it my delay that's costing here again? Log analytics, compute and analytics, storage, maybe not. ML AI services. Okay. So Derek is already right here. It was literally the first answer. Compute is the thing that's always going to cost you a lot. Storage, yeah, Derek, very good. Storage, super cheap. Don't worry about storage, especially if you're just doing a project where you say, I want to train on Azure. Storage is not the problem. It's always the compute that what do you mean? I think it's not live. It's always what's going to cost you. But if you're building this right, or clever, not even clever, if you're not taking massive amounts of data to actually practice working on the cloud platform, where you have to spend a lot of time in the processing because it's not that large amount of data, or because the streaming isn't that fast that you're simulating. That's not going to cost you a lot. So the thing, it's not, this is not a problem. So you can't, where was the comment from Guy? So the cost isn't really the problem. The data isn't really the problem. The goals and having nice goals and having fun goals, that's a problem. I think theory and so on is there. Absolutely. You can get everywhere theory for AWS, for Azure, for GCP. Also, the documentations are so strong now, right now. If you're looking into something, you're going to find it and you're going to solve it. The UIs are so good. It's they made so much progress over the last years. It's crazy. So it's doing that project. It's getting into the work and documenting it so you can then show it and can talk about it actually with somebody who is going to evaluate your skills. That's the goal. That's what you should be looking for. And that's what I also tell my students. You have to do this. And I think like I'm like a broken record. I think I say this for years now. But it's very, very important. A long time viewer. Hi, Goro. Nice to see you here. Again, I want to just quickly about the pricing guy and I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher your name, but like it all comes down analytics or ML, AI services. It all comes down to processing. Processing is costing, and that's where the cost is. Derek says, I agree on the technical test, and candidates tend to hate it. We have our senior engineers explain why they've done in their projects, and normally this allows you to understand their technical level. Yes, this is sometimes hard to measure, but if they are good engineers in your team, they will be able to pick out the ones that know more than just the theory. Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point, Derek. You need to have good team members who are actually asking the questions. Just like these tests that you see people do all the time, these automated tests, forget about these automated tests. Most of the knowledge, the understanding, how good a applicant is what you get out of getting to know them, talking with them, drilling down on the things where they might mention what they've done, but then if you ask deeper, is the knowledge still there, right? Mismanagement, lack of scaling. Well, mismanagement is always a thing that you see, that you can see. But scaling, I think nowadays with the cloud platforms, scaling, it's almost hard to build something that doesn't scale. Like you need to really try to build something that doesn't scale. So I don't think that's a huge issue. But yeah, mismanagement where people like using data lakes for everything and just dropping stuff in there and not documenting that what is in there and don't manage access rights and so on. That stuff as well is like everything's that's all problematic. Anonymous says, why was I anonymous? Mondazar says, maybe security is a big challenge, isn't that? Yes and no. So generally, you have to know what you're doing in the cloud. That's something that is important. Setting it up isn't that hard and isn't that expensive because they have a lot of tools out there. But if you misconfigure it, or misconfigure or misarchitect your security, yeah, then You're going to run into problems. Sorry, my computer here is on. That's binging. Hi Andreas, a lot of data engineering job postings seem to be asking for Kafka Spring Boot lately. Is there a trend emerging, or does it seem that way to me? Well, Spring Boot, it's well, Kafka a lot, but for Kafka is a lot for years. Message queues are everywhere, and that's what I always train also with my students, that we at least, it doesn't need to be Kafka specifically, because let's be honest, most message queues act the same, work the same. With Kafka, you have more configuration possibilities, and you can also migrate from one cloud to the other. But so it's not really different between the clouds. So that's the thing. But Kafka is asked a lot. Spring Boot here. Spring Boot is mostly for APIs, creating APIs, working or designing and creating APIs. Because it's Java, so I'm guessing people work still a lot with Java there. I personally, I tried a bit. I worked a bit with Spring Boot. I had a developer who developed with Spring Boot, 2 actually. I could never get into it. It was always a bit complicated to do and But since I did the code, since I do the academy, and since I create courses for the academy, I was actually looking more into Python, creating APIs with Python. Fast API, and a lot of people say Flask is also very good. I think there is already a move in this direction, especially for internal APIs where systems communicate with each other. So yeah. But I also have in my academy, I created a Kafka course and did a whole project with Kafka and MongoDB streaming and so on, and Spark streaming. It's Kafka, Spark, MongoDB. These are the tools that you see all the time. Whereas in pipeline runs are badly managed. Okay, yeah. When you have large platforms and shared resources, you realize individual engineers are not responsible for costs and therefore do not manage it well. Yes, that can happen. It's also an optimization part, right? Can you optimize it to run more efficiently, or yeah? But usually, I guess engineers are a bit bad at this. The solution is what matters. The cost, yeah. I have 19 years experience in database development and administration. Will switching to data engineering a good thought? And will your course help me land a job or do freelancing? So freelancing, I think, is always, it's hard. I wouldn't go straight into freelancing from learning data engineering, because you need some experience in it. So most likely freelancing will be hard. But yeah, sure. If you have the, let's say, the traditional computer science knowledge, a bit of coding, database experience, that's what I basically build the academy upon. That if you have that basic knowledge, or are interested in also getting this basic knowledge, then the doors are open to do the engineering part. A lot of people come from this area where they are more in the traditional developer, administrator part, and actually get into the engineering, into data engineering, and work with data platforms, with the cloud, and basically expand their knowledge through that. I think it's a really nice transition to do. It's better than coming from a data scientist perspective. Yeah, because you're already in that engineering world. Most likely, you have been working with servers. You have some Linux knowledge. You, as you said, database development. You know how to design a relational database, which is very, very beneficial for NoSQL databases designing. Yeah, I think Farhan, for you, that seems like an interesting, like a good step. Good step. Would be a more lightweight queue, lighter than Kafka, which also be cloud agnostic. There are other PubSub systems that you could use. What could you use? RabbitMQ. I think these things. RabbitMQ. I think also Redis has a PubSub functionality, which is very, very simple publish and subscribe models. So look into that. What else? Let me quickly do a Google. Kafka Alternatives. Best Kafka Alternatives. RabbitMQ, yeah. And the others I actually don't know here. I think RabbitMQ is also a valid choice that I would look into there. And as I said, Redis for in-memory, have an in-memory message queue. That could also be something. Yeah. Yeah, but it's funny that some topics we are talking also in our weekly coaching meeting, like what we've just discussed with the pricing and with what was it? What's the other thing? Pricing. I don't remember. And I really like that we moved from just having the group coaching sessions to one-on-one calls, and then on Fridays the group sessions where I basically what I do is whenever throughout the one-on-one calls there's something interesting, I'm basically writing it down, and then I prepare this for Fridays, where I not only take questions on Fridays but also share with everyone interesting topics that came up through the week. And I really like that. The participation could be better. I have to admit that. Not everybody's there on Friday, but it's, you know how it is. People are. I have students from the US. I have students from Australia, from Europe. So it's hard to bring everyone together, right? So, but that's I had that on my list. The one-on-one coaching and the weekly meetings. It's a really nice transition. I think that really works. I also added more time for the coachings. So I'm currently doing coaching Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Fridays. So it's also for me quite nice because I usually have some time between the sessions, actually, to not get too stressed, and I don't want that. Do you think that migration may be another challenge with cloud specificality in some companies? Don't try to renew the data architecture design. Okay, now I understand. Yeah, you have to design your stuff differently on the cloud. That's the thing, and you need people to be able to actually do this. So it's always tricky from a data from a privacy reasons. That's sometimes the problem, and so on. So yeah, I don't want to get too much into this. I think this is a huge topic that we could do. Let me write this down. Maybe I'm going to do a stream on that. Moving from on-premise or something to cloud. Yeah. So, yeah. Bombard me with more questions. I have a few more minutes. I just want to mention The coaching, I have two more open seats for tomorrow. So tomorrow starts a new group, the October group. I'm only taking a few students this time. I didn't also advertise this for a longer time. I decided last Friday. I actually wanted to skip October, but I actually decided last Friday. I think it would be fun to bring in a few students and teach a few more students. So I'm limiting it, and I don't want to have a lot of students this time around. So I have 2 more spots available, and if you're interested, look into learndataengineering.com. Here I can show you. So when you're here, learn data engineering, you can scroll down here. This is the academy where we have the everything, the courses for the fundamentals of computer science, the fundamentals of data engineering, and then the finished projects, the example projects that you can go through. Where I have we have one for AWS, we have one for Azure. We have that document streaming capstone projects with Fast API, Kafka, Spark, MongoDB, and a Streamlit app. That all runs on Docker. Was it last week or the week before? I think last week I added the time series capstone project, where we're using external APIs or CSV files to bring data in and use InfluxDB and Grafana to actually store the time series data and visualize it with Grafana. I can talk about this in the next live stream a bit more. Or the coaching here, where when you click on the coaching, this is where you see my face here, and where you can actually then book the coaching here in this. Yeah, and I also have here FAQs and so on and so on. So that's where, if you want to check it out, check out what I do. I do this full time now. I'm just working on the academy. I'm just working on the coaching. I have a new project coming up within Learn Data Engineering. I don't want to talk about this. If you're a part of our academy, you have seen in the Slack. I already announced it in Slack, but I don't want to announce it here yet. So yeah. Check it out if you're interested in becoming a data engineer and learning data engineers. When it comes to security, a lot of security officers at my client say allow Azure services is not secure. No, I think people always think the cloud is less secure than what they already have or what they host themselves, especially in larger companies. The problem with this is what people don't realize is how many people are actually working on your platform that you host, that's yours. How many are there? 50? 100? 10? Right? How many are there? The cloud platform's business is to have it secure. The cloud platform's business is to keep your privacy. If they have a data leak, it will be terrible for them. And so that's not really an issue. The problem is to actually configure the security right. That's one of the things here. But generally, you can encrypt everything on the cloud. You can encrypt your file storage. You can encrypt the messaging between the systems. You can set up virtual private cloud, like virtual networks, and so on. So the data is secure there, and that's just bullshit. Forget about this. That comes from people who have no idea or never worked on the cloud and are just naysayers. No. This thing is they invest so many resources to make this all secure. And the problem is you can mess it up because you have no idea what you're doing, then it's a problem. But otherwise, the cloud generally very secure, especially if you use the encryption services they have built into their systems. So in AWS, for instance, is KMS. I always forget how it's called in Azure. We had this. We talked about this last week, but I don't remember. What was that? Why is there no common standard really used to measure data quality? And because it's very subjective, the data quality to you or specific to your use case. So it's hard to have some not specific general tools to do this. So and also a lot of people are not really at that stage yet where they are working with data and they're still building their proof of concept, their minimum viable product, but they're not at the stage where they need data catalogs, where they need a big data governance, where they need these tools that where you can have data quality, managed data quality. There are some tools, I think, some libraries that you can use, like Great Expectations and so on. I think these are good for validating your data. But yeah, generally that's I think that's coming at some point. Which language do you use while data engineering coaching? Python or Java? Like my team is using Python, PySpark to read Kafka topics. I think Java is much more mature. What do you say? I think so. First of all, what are we usually using in the coaching? We're usually using Python. What I see out there is this transition away from Java more into the Python realm. Very often it's also a lot easier to transform your data and work with the data in Python because of libraries like not like pandas. With like pandas, I mean. I'm sorry. With pandas where you can just create data frames and work with it, which is in Java terrible to do. Data transformations in Java can be super annoying, and in Python it would be 2 lines of code. So I would, if I would start now, I would do Python with your team. I would also keep it on Python. If that works, use it. It's very, very good. Although Java might be more mature because it's older, but who cares? Who cares? What works. And Python is the thing to go. Why is that? Let me make another point why I think the Python path Python is getting more and more popular than Java. You have to think of who is working with the data a lot. And in our field, in our engineering and data science realm, there are a lot of data scientists actually working with the data. Very often you have proof of concepts where there is no data engineer. A data scientist has to build something and they start with Python and so on. So that's why I think this shift towards Python is getting more heavy even stronger than now. So I prefer Python, although I'm not a super good Python coder. I started with Java. I coded Java for 10 years. I'm still a Java fanboy, but for data engineering, my courses are all with Python. Every course is with Python. I don't do a single course with Java. When's the next round for the coaching? I'll be on vacation, can't get in the session starting tomorrow. Next month will be the next round. I'm starting every month around. If you want to stay updated, get on our do I have that here? Where's the mailing list? Here. Let me share the screen. Here, when you go to our website, learndataengineer.com, scroll down here and just go here. Is data engineering for you? If you start this test, you get on our mailing list. And with that, first of all, you can do the test if data engineering is for you. And also, you get notified whenever when the next coaching starts. Hakeem, if you have some questions about the coaching, just ask them. This is more or less a coaching. I want to have the coaching as the main topic today. Hadoop seemed like the hottest thing ever a few years ago. What's your thoughts on the state of play around it now? So, Julian, I absolutely agree. Hadoop was the craziest thing when it came around, when people started working with it. If you have a nice, if you want to do something vendor, or where you don't want to have a vendor login when you want to run something on your platform or install just a standalone platform, then Hadoop is still a nice thing. Hadoop with Spark and Kafka, like a Cloudera distribution or something, that's still good. The upside with these is always, and people always forget this, the cloud. What happens in the cloud? Very often in the cloud with the services, you pay per use. So you're paying for the processing power you need. You're paying for the processing time. And this is always, if it's hosted, it's always more expensive than just getting a server, getting an instance. So if you run a lot of processes, if you do a lot, then it can be very, very beneficial to run something like Hadoop or a platform like this, because you're just paying for the resources and not paying for the data and the processing that flows. That's added, that's on it. So it still has its use, but the hype is over. It's more mature now. The cloud platforms also getting back to the cloud and how strong they are. The cloud platforms are so strong right now. It's hard to justify getting a distribution from a Hadoop vendor and installing it and running it and managing everything. So, yeah. It's still cool, but we have a course in the academy. I have more. I'm going to upload today or tomorrow, more or less tomorrow, more likely tomorrow. I'm going to upload more videos. Suyo creates a Hadoop course right now in the academy, basically with the basics, how to set up set it up as a Docker container, and then write data into HDFS. The next things that are coming now are for Hive. So you have a Hive data warehouse on top of the data that you store there. So I think it's still usable. It's still very, very beneficial. A lot of tools are in the background, or the basics is Hadoop, but it's no longer that important. How long does it take? No. How long does it take to complete the course? I'm sorry. So Photon, it depends on what you're talking about, the academy or the coaching. The coaching we're doing for 12 weeks, 3 months. After that, that's enough. Absolutely enough. My goal with this is to give you the basics, to get you started, to do with you a project that you learn everything, and then you build on top of this from there. That's why all the coaching students also get forever subscription to the academy. I want you to go out there, then be able to expand your knowledge because you know all the basics and how to you have basically the tools at hand to be able to better yourself. So 3 months for the coaching. The academy depends on how much you want to do. I think I don't remember, was it 20 hours of videos or something in the academy right now? And just videos. So let's say, I'm guessing if you're doing every course and if you're doing all the background for this, maybe 60 hours or something, right? 60 hours. If you want to do everything in the academy, you can spend there's, let's say, 60 hours. Let's say let's say you're doing 6 hours a week, then you would get to 10 weeks. Yeah. Do you cover database data warehouse design in your academy? Yes, partly. So I'm with relational databases. I don't do a big relational database design course, because I think this is a bit of the basic that you should have for this. In the fundamentals part, I link to resources where you can learn this, where there are tons of resources, basically everywhere out there. You can learn that. Data warehouse design is a bit more tricky. I'm talking about this. This is part of my schema design course, where I talk about relational databases, all types of NoSQL databases, and data warehouses. But this is more of I'm keeping this on a lower level. Like, okay, you have your staging tables. You can create facts and dimensional tables, and this is how you would look at as an example, but not like a big course, because also I'm not the expert in data warehouses. Maybe I'm getting a data warehouse expert to do a course in the future. Let's see. Hi, Stevie. Which relational database would you recommend for storing real-time data? I'm currently using Postgres, but it's becoming slow as the data size is growing. Please let me know your thoughts on this. That's what I was mentioning before. I actually did a course on this recently with InfluxDB and Grafana. I would go for a time series database with this. If this is real-time data, and I'm guessing it's time series or time-based, then I would go for something like a time series database. InfluxDB, Timescale, I think, is the other one. That's the way to go with this. Yeah. So look into these types of databases. That's always the problem. Relational databases are really, really nice to design your relational database, and the tables and the connections, or the foreign keys, primary and foreign keys, and the indices and so on. But if you just dump a lot of data in it, it's getting problematic. I don't know what data you use. If you're using time-based data or something like a document store, that might be interesting for you. But that would be interesting to do actually. To see your data and do some schema design for this. Look into that. Oh, thanks, Torgul. Future functional programming. It's there. It's going to stay. It's most of the time enough. I don't know what to say. I keep it. Yep. There's a future for this. Which level of Python expertise is required for the course? What it's funny. I had a question about the coaching today, and I was asking back like, what's your Python skill level? Because people always confuse that, or always think that for becoming or being a good engineer, you have to be that Python coding god. Like you need to be very good at coding and software development. Not necessarily. You can do with a lot of simple things. You can do a lot of work, a lot of transformations and so on. So it's more of understanding. The problem is more what are you going to do than how to do it. That's like, how are you going to build this pipeline? What's your base data looking at? How should it look at the end after your pipeline? Where should it be? How do you need to transform it? Is it coming in as JSON and you need to store it as in a relational database or in a warehouse, or can you just keep the JSON? Do you need to store it in a data lake and create Parquet files out of it? Like these type of transformations, that's always the hard part. Understanding how do I need to transform my data so it fits to that store, how that fits to that destination where we put the data. So Python, if you can code with Python and you don't really need a big or a high level of Python knowledge. What is beneficial is if you have worked with pandas before, just because it's so nice to actually put your data into a data frame and then work with it, because most of the time you can't do that. And then you should be able to work with, it's just a few basic libraries, request libraries, so you can access APIs and something, date time, where you can work with timestamps. But it's all this stuff you can all learn, and it's not that hard. The design part is always the most challenging part. The coding is fairly simple. Yeah. All right. I'm going to finish up here because I think let me check my calendar, because I think in 30 minutes I have coaching session. Let me check. Yes. Oh, less even. I need to go. In 15 minutes, I have a coaching session. I first need to visit some room here. It seems sorry, I can't actually get to your question now. Or can I get into it? Which cloud is good for a novice to learn data engineering? Also, I don't see GCP in your course. Any specific reason? Like GCP is more popular? No, it's not popular enough, maybe. Generally for popularity. So you're right, there is right now not a course in the academy about GCP. There is one coming. I'm currently planning one. I already did the design for it. It's just the execution that's missing. I did it basically in the order of AWS, Azure, and then GCP, and that's the order of popularity. Generally, AWS has around 60% market share. Azure, I don't remember exactly how much. So Azure is the second one, and then comes GCP. Of course, this depends on industry and depends on location in which country you are, but that's roughly the way to, or the distribution. I think it's 25 or something for Azure. So 60% is actually AWS, and that's why, and then Azure, and then GCP. That's why I right now don't have a GCP course, but it's coming. I have planned that. Either I do it myself, or I get a specialist who can do that, what I have planned on GCP. Let's see. If you know someone who's best case freelancer or something who wants to do a course, I'm open to it. Yeah. All right, I need to go. Have a great Thursday. Maybe I'm coming up again this week. Let's see. I have a lot of topics that I actually wrote down that would be interesting for a live stream. I'm also going to record more reaction videos. Thanks everybody for being here. It was really nice. A lot of people here. A lot of really, really, really good questions. I hope the answers were only half as good as your questions. And yeah. Thanks for being here. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. Let's chat next time. Yeah. See you later. Bye-bye.